besties, welcome to That's My Chaz. I'm super excited to see you, besties. It's been quite some time since we've seen each other, but I'm super excited to see you. This conversation is honestly something I'm so excited to speak about. I've done maximum 5 speeches on youth activism, and this is something that really hits close to home in a good way, in a positive way, because this is something I'm very passionate about. So today I really need you to sit with me and to just listen, but not just listen to me in the background. I want you to really hear this because it's so important, and it's something that we all need to work together, besties, because us, the youth, we are powerful. As young people, we are amazing, we are powerful, and we can make a change. So June in South Africa is not just any other month, it is Youth Month, right, besties? And it carries memories, it carries pain, it carries the courage of young people, my age, your age, right, that refuse to stay silent. So we remember June 16 as Youth Day, and a day that comes from the courage of young people who stood up and said, we are not allowing these injustices to continue in our lives. Why? Because we experience them every day. So we refuse to remain silent. And they reminded us that the youth are powerful. We are not passive, but we are powerful. But besties, I want to bring this closer to home, right? To us right now in 2026, the youth of 2026, the Gen Zs, right? I want us, because sometimes we hear about history and we clap and we applaud the young people, we applaud whoever made a difference in history, but we forget, right? And we forget to connect it to ourselves. So let me ask you something real. If young people before us could stand up with so little power, right, with their passion and their frustrations, and they stood up and they went for a whole march, why are we with so much more access so afraid to speak today? Because let's be honest, we live in a time where we can post, we can speak, we can record messages, we can share in seconds, literal seconds, and yet many of us stay silent. And I'm not saying that I'm not guilty. I am very guilty of silence and complacency. But not because we don't stay silent because we have nothing to say. We don't stay complacent because we have nothing to say. We stay silent because we've been told that we are too young, that we should stay quiet and that we should know our place. But besties, I need to say this clearly. Silence is not maturity. Silence is not safety. Sometimes silence is just the fear wearing a polite face. And today, besties, I want to say, let's remove that mask, the mask of fear, the mask of silence, and let's choose to speak up, besties. And so that's why I say I'm so passionate about this conversation, because it's so beautiful when the youth realize their strength and how powerful they truly are in making a difference. Because I want you to imagine something, right, bestie? Imagine if every young person, let's say every young person on this earth, right, whoever felt something was wrong, actually spoke up. Imagine if nobody stayed silent about school bullying. Imagine if nobody stayed silent about injustices. Imagine if nobody stayed silent about gender-based violence, crime, or corruption. The world would look completely different, right? Right? But change doesn't happen because everyone speaks at once. Change doesn't happen because we're all sitting at the table and we're all voicing our opinions and we're just, we're all just voicing our opinions and we're all speaking over each other. Change doesn't happen just because we're speaking over each other and we're just voicing our opinions, and sometimes in a rude and disrespectful way. Change doesn't happen because we do that. Change happens when someone speaks first, right? And that someone could be you, bestie. Because I know what happens in real life. You feel something is wrong, right? So you see at school, you see someone get bullied and you can see that this is wrong. But then your mind says, what if they laugh at me? What if I point this out and they laugh at me? What if I say this and they think I sound stupid? What if I tell them about someone who has wronged me and they think I'm the only one, or they think I'm the weirdo in the situation? And so you stay quiet, you stay silent, and you put back on that mask of fear. You put it right back on. You put all the straps back on. You put back on the mask of fear because you are afraid of being judged. Because I need you to understand something, besties. And I want you to know that the fear of being judged sometimes is louder than the injustice that we are witnessing. We're seeing someone get bullied. We see it and we see this injustice and we want to speak up, but then this fear of being judged just weighs down and completely covers that passion to speak up. Right? And this fear completely masks the need to stand up for your fellow friend or your fellow peer who's being bullied. And this is exactly how silence wins, because we are so afraid of being judged. We are so afraid of being outcasts. And sometimes this fear, it's not about this fear being stronger than us, because it convinces good people not to speak up. It convinces you and I not to say anything because we are afraid of being judged. But basically, I want you to understand something. Your voice does not need to be perfect. It does not need to be loud. It does not need to be heard from, for example, if I'm sitting in this room, it does not need to be heard to the people outside. It does not need to trend. It needs to be used. Because even a shaking voice, a voice that is full of, nerves can start a change, can make people want to join their movement. I know of a friend who she doesn't really like having, conversations or completely voicing her opinions in public spaces. She really doesn't enjoy that. And so she writes poetry. And her use of poetry, she stands up for people who are being bullied or abused in various situations. She uses her poetry to stand up against injustices. She uses her poetry. She writes it down and sometimes she gives it to people and she hands it out to bring awareness to school bullying. And it's so beautiful because she doesn't really like having conversations. She doesn't really like talking about what she's going through or the injustices that she sees. Maybe she sometimes even feels nervous when she has to do speeches, but she uses her passion, her talent, her ability to speak up, to stand up, right? And that's so beautiful because she's a young person just like you and I. And maybe she doesn't really like talking. And maybe she doesn't really like speeches. But she uses her talent and her ability. And maybe your ability, bestie, is singing. You can use your ability, your singing ability, to stand up against injustices. You can use for example, my ability is just speaking, constantly speaking. I remember even in first grade, I got my report back. And in my school, when you get your reports, your teacher writes down your homeroom teacher writes down everything that they know about you. Every complaint that they might have, or any good thing that you might have. But I had many complaints in grade 1 because I was a very naughty kid. And in one of the complaints that my homeroom teacher wrote in grade 1, she said that I would talk a lot in class. And sometimes I would distract, the people next to me. And from grade 1 to literally matric, that has been a constant comment that has been on my report card, where I've always been the most talkative person in the class. And even when I did hit a stagnant point in my life where I was too afraid to speak up and I was too afraid to talk to people, and I was very, I had this huge social anxiety. Obviously, then I didn't obviously get that comment, but throughout my schooling career, I'd always gotten the comment where I was just always talkative. It's important to use that talent. Use that talent to bring awareness to injustices. Use that talent to call people together so that we can stand against, crime, to stand against GBV, to stand against bullying, to stand against those things. If you're good at drawing, use your drawing skills. If you're good at reading, use your reading skills. Your writing, use your writing skills. Whatever you might be good at, let's use our abilities and our talents to bring awareness to the dire situations in our country, right? And I want you to know that I want us to look at this verse first. Let's first look at this verse. And this verse really found me in a place where I felt like I was crumbling. So before we look at the verse, I'm going to tell you a little personal story about my life. I have been an anti-GBV activist from when I was in grade 8. So when I was 14, I have been an anti-GBV activist. And I once delivered a out of school speech. So I wasn't doing a speech for like representing my school. I was just doing a speech outside of school. And I did one, and the judge stopped me when I was done with my speech, and he said to me, "Don't you think that this topic is a bit too mature for you? Do you not think that this topic might be too much for a 14-year-old to talk about?" And in that time, I was 14, right? So I didn't know what to say. I said, "Sir, we young people, we may not look like we do, but we experience these every single day. Someone I know might be experiencing GBV. And so I am experiencing that through them. I might not look like I'm experiencing crime, and maybe because no crime has been committed against me, but I know of people who have lost so much because of crime. I know people who have lost so much because of gender-based violence. I know of people who have lost so much because of bullying. I know of people who have lost so much because of injustice and corruption. I know of people who have lost so much, who have lost who they truly are. And so I might not look like I've experienced it, and maybe because I haven't, but I know of people who have. People in my community who've experienced this. And so I choose to speak up, to speak against, not because I've chosen a mature topic, and not because I think I'm better than everyone else who has chosen light-hearted topics, but because it's a reality that people I know are experiencing and facing. It's a reality that if we don't stop this reality now, our children, my children, as a young person, my children will have to go through this. And of course, I obviously didn't say this as perfectly as I'm saying it now, but I said something along those lines. And he said, "Wow." He said, "Wow," and then he left. But see, that's what I want you to know. You're young. You're going to be told that this topic is too mature for you, or why are you even having a conversation about this? But basically, you know of people who have experienced it. And even if you don't know of people who have experienced it, you see the news every day. You see the struggles that people are going through because of these injustices. And I want to tell you, bestie, that I refuse to remain silent just because I am young. I refuse to remain silent. In fact, I choose to take a stand. Just as the young people during June 16, 1976, just as they chose to stand up, just as they chose to use their voices, to use their abilities, to use their talents, I choose to do the same. I refuse to remain silent and complacent just because I'm a young person. These are realities that we are all facing. And as young people, we need to take the stand. We are the leaders of tomorrow. We are going to lead the young people, the new generation that has just come in. I forgot the name now, but the new generation Alpha. We are the young people that are going to be leading them. And I don't know about you, bestie, but I want to lead them in the correct way, in the correct path. So, from that personal story, here's a little verse that has really helped me. After having that conversation with the judge, I cried because he had actually marked me down for having a mature topic. I had gotten the worst score that I've ever gotten in my whole public speaking career. I went home and I was crying to my mom and I was like, this is so unfair. How can you mark me down just because I have a mature topic? And obviously this takes me back to the Galatians 1 verse 10 verse where, am I doing this for the approval of man or the approval of God? And then it also took me to another verse that my mom introduced me to, and it says it's in 1 Timothy 4 verse 12, and it says, don't let anyone look down on you because you are young. Continues to say a lot of other things, but the one big thing that I looked at there was, don't let anyone look down on you because you are young. That means your age is not your weakness. It's your assignment. Because you are young, they're going to listen. And I think it's amazing. I think that's really cool. Because you are young, the adults are going to listen. Because you are young, it starts to... There was something that I said in my speech, and I'm obviously going to paraphrase it because I can't remember it correctly. However, there was something that I said in my speech, and this was a speech where I was representing the school this time, and it was a speech on youth activism. And I said, oh goodness, I hope I remember now. I said something along the lines of, when young people choose to stand up, it's important for young people to stand up and to speak out. And because when young people do that, the government starts to see that this problem is not just running, it's not the complaints of just adults. This problem is deeper. The world turns and says, wow, even young people are experiencing this. Or even young people see the problem in what we're doing. It was, obviously this is very paraphrased, but it was the power of young people, the power that young people have to change things, to bring about change. June 16, 1976, young people stood up and they marched for their freedom. And when there was an altercation between the young people and the police, and many young people were shot and died, that made everyone in the world turn. At first, people were complacent. They were silent. But when the deaths of innocent and young children, when that happened, the whole world began to act. The whole world began to pull up their socks. The whole world began to want to see change because of the deaths of young, innocent people. Young people have the power to bring change. And I'm near tears because God has given us as an assignment. Despite our age, He has given us an assignment. So it's so important. I'm near tears because I'm so passionate about this. It's so important for us to put our age aside, to look at this assignment that God has placed in our hands and to run with it. I want to be really honest with you right here, besties. I think one of the biggest things that young people believe is, I'll speak when I'm older, when I have the degree backing me, or when I've already covered my dream career, when I at least know a little bit more. Who says you can't know more now? Who says you can't research enough now? Who says you can only know enough when you're older? We have the internet in our hands, in the palm of our hands. We have it right here, besties. We have the ability to understand, to learn, to research. So now is the time, not when you're older. Here's another lie that young people believe. I'll care when I have the power. I'll act when I have influence. I will be more powerful if I have other adults backing me. I will be more powerful if I have my degree backing me. But here's the problem. The world you are waiting to be old enough to fix is already affecting you now, right? Like I said, we're all experiencing this. We're young, but we're also experiencing the injustices that are happening around us. Crime is not waiting for you to grow up or to become older. GBV is not waiting for you to graduate as a, esteemed attorney. GBV is not waiting for that. Corruption is not waiting for you to get your job. I remember talking to student advisor. I might have that name wrong. But anyways, I was talking to him and he asked me why I wanted to study law, and I told him about, my journey as an activist and how I think that law will really help me because it has this, legal backing, when I make arguments in my speeches, or if I really want to go into this activism, I will at least have legal backing. He said, how many now I need to remember correctly what he said. He said, how many activists do you know that have a degree in what they're standing up for? And I said, not a lot. And he said, so what do you mean? And of course I am studying law right now. And I think that it's beautiful to just, align that with my activism. But that really hit me. Are you seriously, it felt like he was saying, are you seriously going to wait to get the degree to fulfill your activism? Or are you going to start now? That hit me. Because as young as we are, we have the ability to research, to know more, to have that legal backing through research. So we have that ability. So why not start now, right? Why are we waiting? And this is where the Youth Day on June 16 becomes so powerful, because those young people did not wait for permission. They did not sit there and say, no, the police will give us permission to march. They'll sign something and we'll go for a march. They didn't wait for that. They did not wait to be powerful, older adults. They did not wait to be ready. They stood up because something inside them said, this is not right. These injustices are not right. And besties, I want to challenge you. In this moment, I'm super excited to challenge you right now, because this is, like I said, and like I've been saying throughout the video, that this really hits right in my heart, because this is something I'm very passionate about. I want to challenge you. What is your this is not right moment today? What is it? Because activism doesn't start with crowds, right? It starts with awareness. It starts with bringing awareness. It starts with noticing that this is not okay. I'm seeing an injustice right now. It starts with caring. I want to see my peer free from bullying. I want to see my neighbor free from GBV. It starts with refusing to normalize things that hurt people. The world has become so, I don't know if volatile is the right word, but the world has become so harsh. We go onto the news and we see so many deaths. We see so many people pass away and brutally so. We see wars. We see people die in an instant. We see mass killings. We see so many things. It's become so harsh. And unfortunately, sometimes it makes us feel so desensitized. Very desensitized. But I want to say no. Let us not become desensitized. When we see an injustice or something that really scratches our hearts because of someone's death or anything like that, cry. Let it out. Speak up. Whatever it might be, Say, today, I'm going to take a stand. Let's not normalize the things that hurt people. And I know sometimes young people get dismissed. Someone says, you're just too emotional. You're doing too much. You don't understand. You'll get it when you're older. No, you'll get it now. You'll understand it now. Because you are also experiencing it now. Because you're experiencing it now, let's stand up now. Sometimes being young means you haven't learned how to ignore what is wrong yet. And that's good. That's not immaturity. Don't ignore it. That is clarity. You see what is wrong and you choose to stand up against it. There's another verse that I tend to always look back and say, wow, this verse really helped me in my journey. In Jeremiah 1 verse 7, it says, do not say I am too young. Do not use your youth as an excuse, is basically what it's saying. When God has set out that plan for you to stand up for his people, do not say I'm too young. Do not make up excuses. Put on the armor of God. Have God right by your side. And know that what you're doing is right. That you are standing up against injustices. That you are protecting God's children. Because purpose does not wait for age. It doesn't wait for you to become 20 or become 30 or become the best lawyer. It doesn't wait for that. Purpose comes sometimes even unexpectedly. Now, basically, I want us to make this real. Because, when people hear the word activist, they imagine big crowds and they imagine marches and they imagine these five mics pointing to you as you address 500,000 in a crowd. That isn't really what activism is. Because sometimes real change starts quietly. So what does your activism look like? Sometimes it might even look like speaking up when someone is being bullied. Saying, hey, that's not right. I think you should stop. I think I'm going to report you to a teacher. Or it's refusing to laugh at disrespect. When you see someone feeling very uncomfortable with the joke that was made in the group, will you continue to laugh? Calling out harmful jokes is so important as a young activist. Supporting victims instead of gossiping. Sharing awareness on social media instead of ignoring issues. Oh, that's an adult's problem. Unemployment? That's an adult's problem. Crime? That's an adult's problem. No, you're experiencing it too. And if we don't speak up about it right now, we're going to experience it. If we don't speak up or speak against unemployment, crime, GBV, corruption, if we don't do it now, we're going to experience it. Do you want to experience it? No, right? So I think it's so important to speak up. And then be the friend who says, that's not okay. Yes, maybe someone is going to laugh at you or someone who's going to judge you. But I want you, bestie, I want that fear of judgment not to outweigh the need to speak up against injustices. You need to choose courage in those small moments because those small moments become big patterns. And then those patterns become culture. And that culture becomes change. Besties, I want to say something very clearly. I wrote this down in my notes because I thought this was so profound. You don't need a title to make a difference. You just need a voice and a decision. I'm going to say that again because I think this was so profound when I wrote this in my notes. You don't need a title to make a difference. You just need a voice and a decision. And yes, sometimes people are going to misunderstand you. Sometimes people are going to judge you. Sometimes people are going to laugh at you. Sometimes people will say you're doing too much. Relax. Why are you so serious? Why are you making a big deal out of nothing? But I want you to hear this. Sometimes doing too much is just what it looks like when someone refuses to accept the wrong things. Doing too much is not something to be embarrassed of or ashamed of. Doing too much was created to stop us from speaking up. Doing too much was created for people to stop being who they truly are. Doing too much was created to stop people from truly enjoying the experiences in life. When you're super excited for a new movie that's come out, you express this excitement differently from others. Of course you are. You're different. And so people, you express your excitement differently from others, and then you're told you're doing too much. So now you need to downplay your excitement just because you're doing too much. Doing too much was created to restrict us. And now I'm saying doing too much is good. Do too much, bestie. Be too much. Be proudly too much. Because it's just what it looks like when someone refuses to accept the wrong things. And I would rather you be called too loud for standing for something very important than be silent in a world that needs your voice. I'd rather you be called as someone who's doing too much for standing against injustice than being silent and being complacent. I have a verse that my sister really likes this verse, and it's Isaiah 6 verse 8, and it says, "Here I am, send me," right? Send me not when I'm older, not when I'm ready, not when I'm perfect. Lord, send me now. What do you want me to do, Lord? So, Bessies, let's come back to June 16, right? I think Youth Day is not just a remembrance, it's a reminder, it's a responsibility, and it asks us a question every year: what are you doing with your freedom others fought for? Because freedom is not only something that we're going to, celebrate, it's something that we really need to participate in, besties. And this participation is speaking when it matters. It's caring when it's uncomfortable. It's acting when it's easier to ignore. We cannot honor Youth Day with just posts and hashtags when we ourselves choose to be complacent, when we ourselves are withholding our own freedom now in 2026. We need to honor Youth Day with courage, with awareness, with responsibility, with action. Because if the youth before us stood up in a system that tried to silence them, and not silence them through restricting social media access or through restricting news coverage, not silence them in that way, silence them by death, but they still stood up, then we cannot be a generation that silences ourselves. We cannot be a generation that silences ourselves, that creates a self-made restriction. I'm going to close, but I think this was such a beautiful conversation. It was so beautiful to talk about. Whenever I see a young person stand up against what is wrong, what is unjust, or bring awareness to situations that we are all facing, my heart is filled with joy. I end up with goosebumps all over my arms because it's so beautiful when a young person sees how powerful they truly are. So I want you to know, bestie, you are not too young to speak up. You are not too small to matter. You are not too inexperienced to care. And you are definitely not too quiet to start becoming loud about what matters. I think the world does not change when you are ready. It changes when someone decides to begin. When someone decides to stand up, to speak out, And that someone might be you, bestie. So I want you, the next time you feel that moment inside you where you know something is wrong, don't silence it. Don't cover it up. Don't keep quiet. Don't be complacent. Speak. Even if your voice shakes, even if it's just one sentence, even if it's just one moment of courage, because that is how change starts. Even if you write it down in poetry or you sing about it or whatever it might be, however you're bringing awareness, it's important to show up, speak up, stand up. That's my chat, besties. It was an amazing conversation that I had today. I felt very, very emotional because it's such a beautiful conversation to have when we truly see how powerful we are, what we really can do. I want to recap the verses that I gave you, and hopefully they're going to help you in this journey of youth activism. The first verse that I shared with you was 1 Timothy 4 verse 12, one that I keep in my room daily because it really speaks to me. 1 Timothy 4 verse 12 says, don't let anyone look down on you because you are young. That means your age is not your weakness, right, besties? It is your assignment. The other verse that I gave you was Jeremiah 1 verse 7. It says, do not say I am too young. Do not use being young as an excuse, because purpose does not wait for your age. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. In fact, it wants you to start now. Isaiah 6 verse 8 that I gave you, it says, here I am, send me. Not when I'm older, not when I have the degree, not when I have the career, not when I have the husband, not when I have the mansion, not when I'm perfect, now. Send me, Lord. You don't need to grow older to become powerful. Bestie, you just need to start using your voice. Maybe even if you feel uncomfortable with using your voice, maybe you can start writing, singing, dancing, acting, academics, sport, whatever it might be, whatever your talent is, whatever your ability is, you can use exactly that to bring awareness. We are the leaders of tomorrow, and we can make a difference. I believe in us, bestie, and I know we can make a difference. We are powerful, and the Lord God has given us an assignment despite our age. Let's fulfill it, bestie. Thank you for watching. That's my chat. Bye.